Hello and welcome to the Student Experience podcast, where we'll be chatting to members of the University of Suffolk community, giving them the opportunity to share their experience with us. I'm Sam and I'm a member of the Student Experience and Engagement team, and in today's episode, myself and my colleague Brandon are joined by Lewis Francis, who is a Level 5 history student. We discussed why he chose to study here, his passion for history, and the excellent support the university provides to its students. So, Lewis, thanks for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself and the course that you're studying?
So, I'm Lewis. I am a second year history student, just currently finishing up the Empires module at the moment.
Oh, wow. Oh,
that's
nice. Cool. So, what would you say attracted you to study at University of Suffolk?
There were a few things from coming to the open day. I think it was 2022 when I came to the open day. Went to the hold and had a very lovely introduction with one of the history lecturers, Mike.
Yep.
We spoke about the locations of how fruits came to and from the New World into
That's pretty cool.
modern day Europe in that region. And I was like, I'd never thought about it that way.
No.
History in its own right has been like a little back hobby that I've looked into. I really enjoy like the history films and history in video games as well. So Assassin's Creed is an obvious one. Tied in fiction and non-fiction history sort of thing. So that's one of the reasons why I looked at coming to Suffolk, because it's got its own archives. The lecturers themselves are absolutely thrilled with their own subject areas.
Yeah.
And for me, it's literally down the road, about an hour away, so I commute in.
Yeah. Was it always going to be history for you? Is that always what you wanted to study, or?
Oh, good question. I did look at a few other universities outside of Suffolk, looking at history as like the main subject area, but I did look into potentially doing a film course here as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since media is another like side hobby that I'm looking into doing further.
Yeah.
Hence what about a podcast. And as well with media and history, they kind of go hand in hand. A lot of propaganda was used during the Second World War, Korean War, and all of that. Part of me wanted to look into the aspects of the use of propaganda and to see what actual effect it had on local populaces and as well morale within certain countries and militaries rather, sorry.
So in terms of, you mentioned that you commute in about an hour away and you're second year student now. How are you finding your sort of study life balance?
So my schedule is very busy on certain days. Mondays are pretty calm. So coming from home takes about an hour and a half, depends on traffic.
Yeah.
Wednesdays as well. Again, pretty busy days because I've got I do a lot of youth work on the side as well. So
I do.
I've got to get back home, start the first one at about 3:00, and then I've got to do another one after that, which is 5 to 9. So it's a very busy day, my Wednesdays. So that kind of writes me off from doing essay planning and the actual assignments that are set. Fridays as well are actually one of the calmer days. I do have quite a lot of free time, so that's when I catch up on anything I miss on Wednesdays. It's bound to happen at some points where you miss a day because of commitments. But catching up on the work, it's absolutely fun to do. It's a lot of interesting topics within history, and
I was going to say you've got to have a passion for it, otherwise you're not going to find it interesting, are you?
So so you say that you commute at the moment. Have you ever sort of lived in student accommodation in the past?
I did for first year. I wanted to test if I could do the commuting backwards and forwards. So it was quite nice that Athena Hall was literally on the other side of the marina, and I could come in like the night before or stay over the weekend, so I didn't have to overload myself in work, driving backwards and forwards, and I could focus on work and all that, and spend time in halls. It was good fun. I made a few friends over there, and a lot of my classmates also lived in Athena, and also I still live in Athena, so it's occasional backwards and forwards, even though I don't live there anymore. Yeah, the commuting got easier, so I thought it's not an expense that's needed as such,
Yeah.
and it's save a bit of money as well. So, I mean,
Well, yes.
So you mentioned about the days like Wednesday is busy, Friday not so much. What is a typical sort of day like for you? Are you in the archives quite a lot?
I do pop over there every so often. So a normal day would be up at 7, try and leave the house back at home for about 7:30 to try and avoid most of the traffic.
That's pretty much what happened to me. It's about the same.
I mean, there's a load of roadworks going on. It's always in the direction that we're trying to head, so it's just annoying. I try and aim to get around to university about 9:15ish, so I've got some time to catch up on any like note taking I need to do, and as well some of the other students in my lecture also there early, so I could get a chance to socialise, because I'm obviously not living in the halls as much. I'm backwards and forwards. So it's like catching up with their, like, asking how their weekend is and any plans in the future. And it's also like a way to check up on people's mental health and all that. And it's,
definitely.
It's a good way of figuring out how everyone's doing, and I like to know if people are all right, and I like to say I'm a bit of a joker some days, but it's they crack the occasional joke every so often. It makes people feel a bit better. So the lectures are normally 10 to 1.
Okay.
So it's quite a big chunk of the day in comparison to what it used to be last year, where it was more online and now it's more in person. So again, a different transition from commuting and staying in halls, where it's now it's all a new routine that is now all settled in, luckily. So then, depending on the day, I'd say Mondays and Wednesdays can be the busier days for me. I may swing by the library to get some resources for potential assignments, and also swing by the hold as well to get any like recommendations from the archives as well. Get home normally about 3:00ish. And then certain days go straight to my youth work, and if it's not a youth work day, it's carry on doing research. And luckily the online library is absolutely amazing. So
it is. It's fantastic. How have you found that transition back to more in-person teaching?
I see the importance of in-person learning. One of the reasons that I decided to do Suffolk as a university choice was the early aspect of hybrid learning. Obviously, still coming out of the pandemic.
Of course.
There was like, you can come in maybe for 2 hours, 2 days a week, and all like lecture stuff. Of all the information is online, so we're in for seminars only rather than lectures. Whereas now this block of 3 hours is lecture and seminar. Which is nice, because we're all in person, and it's what a university experience should be. But it also has taken away some of that accessibility as well, of other people may have had the same thought as well, like, oh, the online hybrid, absolutely amazing, but they're coming in from potentially further than I am, or having to live in halls, and again, the whole finances and stuff as well.
Absolutely. So sort of going back to history, so we want to know what you love most about history, but in particular, if you was to study a specific period in history, what would you study?
The events of history, people will say, I like looking at, I don't know, the 1600s up to 1800s of like the start of the end of the British Empire. That's topical because that's what we're learning about at the moment. But for me personally, it's more of, I like seeing how the technology in history has changed. So like starting from early stone to bronze to iron ages, and even up to more modern, like the evolution of flight from a canvas and wood plane
Yeah,
to
yeah.
now 5th gen fighters. As I'm quite fascinated by the aerospace area, really. So
Oh wow,
Are you,
fantastic.
are they sort of flexible in what you want to go and sort of research more? Are you given the opportunity to sort of explore different ideas?
yeah, the actual modules that we have, I do try and find ways to like find things I like.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Obviously, at the moment, pirates are quite an underlying tone to look into.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm looking further into piracy and British privateering. So it's quite interesting in that aspect. Obviously, with modules based further back in history, I can't really go down that sort of like passion route.
Yeah.
But it's still interesting itself.
Yeah, of course.
You find new things out every day that you may not look into, and especially if you look further into the future, if we're going into year 3 of a dissertation, you find topics that you may not consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic.
So, I mean, I studied A-level history, and I considered maybe taking history at degree level. So, what are the sort of key differences between maybe history at A-level and then university? Because I'm guessing there's quite a big jump.
For me, this is a really big jump because I didn't do it at A level.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
The
Interesting.
last time I did it was at GCSE. So it's the whole circle of I'll do it at GCSE, do it at A level, do it to history.
Yeah.
It's my journey to get in here is completely different from someone else. I did an initial degree that I had to withdraw from due to personal reasons at home.
Okay.
Had a bit of a time out and thought about actually, I was kind of pushed by my partner to go, oh, you talk about history a lot. Why don't you do that as your initial degree sort of thing? So I was like, oh, I'll have a look around, and that's how I came to do history. But from GCSE to university level, the jump is obviously a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of the skills that I've learned through doing A-level learning in general, the more research and relearning, learning citations and all of that, it's completely different.
Yeah.
But luckily the support with the lecturers are amazing, and it's something that's nice. It's not hand-holding, but it's nice that they just guide you along rather than
of course.
in A-level, some of the, at least with my experience, I don't know about yourselves, they did basically say, right, you're going down this line.
Yeah.
You can't deviate. If you deviate, we'll push you back on.
Absolutely.
It was very much you get given the question in the exam, you basically need to almost memorise it because you know pretty much what's going to come up, and it's just remembering the dates.
There's no defined textbook anymore. You've got libraries and libraries worth of information.
That's the fun of it, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's so important to do a degree that you're so passionate in as well. You're going to get so much from it, aren't you? Which is fantastic. So, with being at university so far, has there been anything that surprised you that you didn't actually sort of expect at first?
I think with the first time I referred to it as my first time trying university. The difference between this time and now is I didn't know actually how much support there was within a university. Even being from halls when I initially lived in them to actually on-site library and the student union as well. There's so much going on behind the scenes rather than, oh, we're just an institution for you to learn at.
Yeah.
For myself, a lot of the help has come from student services and disability services.
Okay.
I got my dyslexia diagnosis through university after struggling for 24 odd years, shadowing my ability.
Yeah.
And it's something I wouldn't have even thought about being tested for and explaining why I couldn't do certain things.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pleased you was able to get that support. That's really good. That must be supporting you a lot now.
Oh, amazingly, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm really pleased.
I guess that's certainly, what you'd recommend to students that might be struggling, or maybe students that have dyslexia or similar things that are considering joining university. Is very much about reaching out for that support because it is available.
Yeah, and it's like if people didn't know where to find it, obviously, most universities have very helpful front of house. I'll call them like that, reception, student services themselves. If you go, so I'm feeling a bit, I don't know, I feel a bit off today, or I don't know if there's something actually wrong with me. Is there anything that could help?
Yep.
9 times out of 10, they'll be absolutely amazing and say, all right, we'll have book you in for like an appointment with one of the many trained staff that is available, and you'll come out potentially with something that you didn't even know you had. And it's just reassuring, and yeah, don't feel embarrassed to ask if you've any inkling of doubt in yourself. Just potentially takes someone else to help guide you along before you find it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it talks about like dyslexia and things like that, and it might not be something necessarily related to that, but is there been a particular challenge that you faced so far that you've overcome? Or it's been pretty plain sailing?
It's plain sailing again. I've already had a kind of a semi-go at this whole university lark. But I'm still always finding potentially new things to better myself on. It's asking for help with academic support, and all of that has been definitely something new to me, especially with, as I say, with the dyslexia. It's asking for help when needed rather than struggling. I do find myself quite reserved and reluctant to ask for said help, but
I think a lot of students have that problem that they almost don't want to sort of put a hand up and say, "Oh, I need help."
Yeah, it's just slowly and silently struggle.
Yeah.
But again, it's, as I said, you shouldn't feel embarrassed to ask for that help. And again, I say the staff are amazing to help, and it's very much, it's. I had a train of thought, and it's completely gone.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, it's struggle-wise, no, I've not struggled per se.
That's great. No, that's really good. So I'm sure someone already has been inspired to hopefully get in touch with the university services based on what you've said, and sort of thinking about university life beyond that as well. So like societies, anything to do with the SU, and is there anything sort of that you're involved in at the moment?
I did dip my toe into the football side of things. I do a lot of football outside of university in my own downtime when I have time.
Yep.
And yeah, the gents that I played with, they're very friendly, very enthusiastic themselves, and even if it weren't at a competitive level, doing all the Bucks stuff, even the normal casual sessions, they were really fun. And I did try to do some of the esports stuff within the university. I have no idea what's going on with them now at the moment because it's kind of gone radio silent. But yeah, they're the sort of things I kind of do, like a bit more of the hobby side of things. And I need to have another look at like what's going on again this year.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Nice one.
So, I mean, you mentioned that obviously you like history, and then sort of how you're looking back at the technology side of sort of history, and certainly out there's a lot of good history documentary makers like Lucy Worsley, for example. Is that something you maybe see yourself trying in the future?
Good question.
Yeah, these are good questions. I've again, with the whole potential to do future research and potentially make it into something of a documentary style package. I mean, I wouldn't be against trying something like that later on down the line if it's potentially something I do on the side of a dissertation to help myself research said topic. I don't know what I'm going to decide at the moment. Yeah, potentially stuff like that, and even I can't remember from Channel 4 or Channel 5, but Guy Speed, he did quite a lot of things with like the Mark 1 tank restoration, and he did a parachute jump for D-Day commemoration.
Yeah,
and like,
that's
those
really,
sort of things.
Was it?
It's maybe more of like going to the places. I do want to go to Normandy at some point and see the see where a huge loss of life did
Yeah.
occur.
Of course, yeah.
Maybe it's part morbid curiosity, but also it is a significant part of World War Two and to the
Well,
help
yeah,
of the
absolutely.
end of it. But then again, I also do just love walking around museums.
I was going to say there's some great museums around, and a lot of them are free to go
Yeah,
into
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
which is really good.
London has so many good museums.
Literally going next week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
literally
where are you
next
going?
week. It's just the British Museum.
Oh, really?
Let's
Okay.
just go in there for a
Awesome.
few hours.
What's your favourite museum?
Ooh. I mean, I would have to say Duxford. Imperial
Yeah,
Museum, Duxford.
yeah.
It's
Really?
down, it's literally
Duxford,
down
yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
Aircraft, I see them fly over when the displays are going on, and it's just like, it's something about seeing those massive machines and thinking they once protected our skies, or
Yeah.
they were invading our skies. It's not just the military as well. It's like even just the large commercial of jumbo jet flight as well as sort of
Yeah.
commerce, and it's just having all of that available to see, and it does leave you looking and like, what's this? What's more? And
Yeah.
even seeing it in representation in modern day media as well. Like you say, oh, I've seen them. They're at Duxford, or they're in they're in the museum in London.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Have you been to the British Museum before then, or was this your first time?
It's going to sound really, really daft, but I've never been.
Really?
Okay.
I've
wow.
done the Natural History Museum in London,
Which is great,
with big old dinosaur in the middle.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I only went to the National Gallery as well the other day.
Oh, wow.
So it's just,
Oh, that'd be awesome for you then.
I'm slowly ticking off the ones in London, but I've done loads of like little ones in my local area and a few abroad as well. So,
Yeah.
Do you do any trips as part of your course at all?
Yeah, like literally next week, British Museum, we're going instead of
Okay, you go with
instead
the
of,
uni.
instead of a
So it's part of a
Wednesday.
uni. Oh, wow.
So I'm going to be frantically trying to get into London and getting back.
Yeah.
All for my youth work. So it's it's going to be a really good day and very busy as well. So
I should have studied history, I think.
Yeah, no, I did very much consider it, and part of me's like, maybe I should have done it.
I mean, it's not always about trips. It's looking again, going back to before I even came to Suffolk. I was looking at other universities. Brunel had a potential for a placement year abroad, and I was like, I mean, that would be good, but it's also delaying the course itself. I was like, nah, I just want to get it done. As much as it'd be nice to go out and look abroad, I can still do that all here.
Yeah, that's true. There's so much in the UK for history.
Absolutely. So you're level 5 now, is that correct? Level 5?
Yeah, level 5, year 2, yeah.
Yeah, so how have you sort of found that transition from first year to second year? And what would you say has been sort of the proudest part of that time so far?
So from level 4 to level 5, it matters.
Yeah, that's the difference, isn't it?
It's a big difference of where you can kind of say the full trope of, year 1, you can kind of relax and coast through it. Yeah, the pressure's on now. And quite literally, we're halfway through this year already.
Yeah,
Some
it
aspects.
goes so quick.
crazy,
Everyone
yeah.
says it, but it really does
It
go
really
quick.
does. And it's like, this time next year, I'll be like, I need to start writing my dissertation in full force. And it's like, you can't just leave it all to the last minute. Like, I don't know, we've all done it. We've left 1 or 2 essays last minute. But yeah, like the swap into year 1 to year 2, it is a jump. Like more of a jump probably from A level to university first year.
Okay.
At least for me, like it ramps up.
Yeah.
And you're doing more in a small amount of time to doing it. So I think to be able to find the flow is probably like the proudest thing I've done.
Oh, brilliant.
While at uni. I don't know about yourselves.
Yeah,
Similar. I think, initially I personally was like, I don't know if uni's for me necessarily, but it was very much a roll the dice. Let's see what happens. We'll give it a go, and I ended up really enjoying it here, and now I work here. So it sort of shows that, doesn't it? I mean, so you mentioned there about your dissertation and third year. Have you got any ideas for your dissertation?
It came from the Viking module that we did, was looking into choose the topic to look into and research in your own capacity was basically, I was paraphrasing that essay question, and I chose to look into the divine god clans of the Vikings, so Odin and all the things that we now see in Marvel. One of the things that went through my mind while actually choosing an area to look into Viking mythology was, how does it correlate potentially with other mythos?
Okay.
Because there's kind of a bit of an overlap with Greek and Viking, and potentially into Egyptian. So it's like looking over three different eras of mythos. It's even my tutor said, what you're thinking is potentially dissertation level work. I'm like, I don't want to do 2000 on it. It's just so looking into different types of myth and legend, basically, within different cultures.
Awesome.
It's a very abbreviated version of said title.
Sounds like that'd be a pretty good dissertation.
I'd certainly read it. I'd find it interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there quite a range in your cohort of different areas that people want to be looking into?
We've got some that like looking into the social culture of it, like gender history, sexual identity history.
Okay.
We've obviously got a few that like further back, so like medieval, and obviously about medieval Vikings, that sort of era. And then I think the majority of us are more contemporary, so like the last 500 odd years.
Okay,
sure.
Are what potentially more people want to look into. I definitely know we've got a few that want to look into World War II further, which
it's always going to be popular, isn't it?
It's the
Yeah.
most recent. I say most recent. It's the most documented, grand scale event in world history, and even to today as well. Some people want to look into like more modern history that's happened within the last 20 odd years. Because obviously when we all graduate, we're going to be looking to potentially get into jobs into the future. And for myself, I want to go into teaching or some form of social work.
Okay.
Cool.
Teaching first, then social work. Is potentially the curriculum for schools will have more of the modern day stuff in. Like it slowly stuff will get faded out because you will do that potentially later on in later education. And modern day events are always occurring and changing courses of day-to-day life.
Okay, yeah, fantastic.
So that's certainly something you potentially want to be a history teacher, because that's something that it's such a nice link between doing history and then being a history teacher. It's perfect in a way.
Yeah, so there'll be another year to do a teaching qualification after this. Maybe not a master's just yet. That might be something down the line. But yeah, definitely the teaching qualification to being a teacher, preferably at secondary level. So it's like more like GCSE type teaching rather than primary, because I work with a lot of primary age kids.
Sure.
I do prefer working with the secondary school type age.
Okay.
You get into more detail about history then.
And you find that their passions start to come through a bit more at that age. You can kind of like go, you're interested, cool, here's this area you can look into. And definitely for me, is going through secondary, history was kind of sold as you can explore it, because there's however many thousands of years worth of documented history.
Yeah.
You're bound to find something that you like.
And new things come up all the time.
Yeah.
Even if it was hundreds of years ago, stuff comes up that people never thought of, and it comes to light.
Yeah, like I said, like the open day was new age food and old age food, like the merging of New World into Europe and all of that. So tomatoes, non-existent in England until they obviously came over from the New World.
Yeah.
I again never thought about it. It's like, we've always had them. No, we haven't.
I think talking to you, I've realised how much you can actually study. Like you were saying about the history of like fruits, for an example. I guess even the COVID pandemic, at some point, people will start looking into. Yeah,
and you could compare it to the Spanish flu.
Black Death. Just all of the microbiology and viruses that have gone around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you sort of mentioned about future prospects for what you'd like to do. So imagine it's October 2025. You've just graduated. What is the next thing for you?
So I've said the whole potential of doing a teaching qualification, so PGCE,
Yeah.
I think they're called.
Yeah.
To do one of them, hopefully to qualify as a teacher and be in some form of teaching role, is obviously the main goal. But if that hasn't occurred, I'll be working in some form of social work or youth work environment.
Perfect. Lovely.
I mean, would you? I mean, you mentioned a bit about a master's, even a PhD, maybe. Could you see a doctor before your name? That'd look pretty cool.
I would.
I mean, it's not off the table entirely.
Yeah.
It's all like, maybe if I do a master's, will I enjoy the master's enough to do a PhD afterwards? There's a lot of if and buts potentially for that.
Yeah. It's something I've sort of thought about before, but it's you got to find something that you are massively interested in.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to be a nightmare for the next 3 years.
So now going back in time, so what would it be? So 2022 September 2022. It's your first day of uni.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to yourself back then as a bit of advice for what to expect?
The one thing I'd say is definitely is prepare a bit more.
Yeah.
Both for the work and the potential for change. Because some things aren't set in stone. Obviously, the change from hybrid learning to fully in person.
Yeah.
Don't get too comfortable in that sense. But also enjoy it. Each day is different. You learn something new. It's all intertwined, and make the most of it.
Awesome. And to sort of new students as well joining now, what sort of advice would you give them? Would it be similar? Would it be different?
Yeah, it's similar sort of advice. Like, get involved with as much or as little as you want. There's no pressure to do anything that you don't want to do. You make friends either through the societies, through people you live with in halls, people in your cohort, and even just out and about on the grounds. I bumped into someone literally while getting a coffee, and all because they didn't have their student card, let them through, and you talk about what they're doing, and I found out they did law. So I was like,
oh wow,
interesting.
Oh, fantastic.
And you just bump into random people.
That's it.
So just enjoy yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's not for you and you have any doubts, you've got tutors to talk to, you've got lecturers to talk to, and you've got, again, student services to talk to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's nothing to worry about.
No.
Have fun and enjoy.
Yeah. You certainly feel like you made the right decision.
Oh, well, absolutely, yes.
Good, brilliant.
So, really enjoyed the chat we've had. So, we've come to final question, which is our answer one, ask one. So, you'll answer a question posed by a previous guest, and then you're going to post one to the next guest.
Mm-hmm.
So, the question for you we have is, so you studied history. If I was to say you had to study something completely different, not to do with history or technology necessarily, what would it be?
And not film studies.
And not film studies.
Well, I was going to say films. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is potentially doing something more practical, maybe go down some form of food course potentially. I didn't even check if they did something related to food here.
Yeah.
So it might not have been at Suffolk if I did that, but something down the catering style, because I really enjoy cooking, and something that I wish I actually did at A-level as well.
Sure.
But yeah, so something down the culinary route.
Okay, no, that's really cool.
That's really good, yeah. Michelin star chef.
No, exactly. Food's not going anywhere.
History of food, like you say now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, so that was, really enjoyed that. Thanks again for joining us, Lewis. So until next time.
So yeah, thank you for having me.
Goodbye from Lewis.
Take care.
And goodbye from Brandon.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Student Experience podcast. If you would like to be a future guest, email studentexperiencesteam@uos.ac.uk or follow the links to our podcast application form through our Brightspace page. You can also reach out to us through our Instagram page, UOS_student experience.